With the big trade this past weekend between the Colts and the Jets, we know the Jets are looking quarterback at number 3, which probably forces the hand of the Browns, whether they wanted to or not, to have to take their guy at quarterback at number 1, which is the way it probably should have been all along. Which to me gives us an indication that the NFL draft really, for all intents and purposes, most interesting storyline is what do the Giants do at number 2? It feels like that's where the draft really begins now. You feel like the Browns are going to take a quarterback at 1. You feel like the Jets are taking a quarterback at 3. What's going to happen with the Giants? What is Dave Gettleman going to do with that second overall pick? Well, I'm here to discuss a few of those options and kind of give my thoughts as to what I would do if I was in Dave Gettleman's position when it came to that second overall pick. So with Dave Gettleman previously referring to this second overall pick, I believe, as a gold jacket type of pick, meaning he thinks you can get a player at this spot in this draft that could end up in Quenton as a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame someday. That's what he's envisioning as the value of this number 2 overall pick. And with the thought being is that they've hired Pat Shurmur to be their head coach. They're going to roll with Eli for the time being. It's time to give Eli more help on the offensive side of the ball. And in that position with the second overall pick, the team could end up taking either Saquon Barkley or Quenton Nelson and get just that type of help. And you've got a lot of people that feel like Barkley or Nelson might very well be the best player in this draft. You probably have a number of people, a number of draft boards that have Barkley and Nelson as the top 2 players in the entire draft, regardless of position. You look at this Giants offense, they desperately, badly need a feature back 3-down difference maker like a Saquon Barkley can be. Or you're talking about, especially after losing previously injured guys like Justin Pugh and Weston Richburg out of the interior of that Giants offensive line. Yes, you spend a ton of money to bring in Nate Solder to play left tackle. You're going to try Eric Flowers at right tackle. But you still need help on the interior of that line. And looking at Quenton Nelson, there's a lot of people that feel like day one on the ground running, he's going to be arguably the best player in this draft. He's special, once in a decade type of guard prospect, a potential future All-Pro. And whereas thinking about it and saying, oh, taking a guy like him number 2 overall, even as a guard, even if he's special, is a bit much. When you look at the overall philosophy of trying to protect Eli Manning, improving the running game, improving the pass protection, Quenton Nelson makes a lot of sense in theory. But personally, if Dave Gettleman goes down either one of these 2 routes with Saquon Barkley or Quenton Nelson, I feel like he's crazy. While many feel Saquon Barkley is the number 1 running back in this draft, and to me he is, they also feel like he's the number 1 player in this draft. I do not. They also talk about Quenton Nelson being truly transformative and special, and I think he's a great prospect, but I think there are flaws that people are paintbrushing over or whitewashing over. He is not a perfect prospect, and he needs to stop being treated as such. And when I look at these 2 guys in the positions that they're at, running back is a position that has not had a lot of value to teams in recent years. And now you're talking about, from a Giants standpoint, sitting pat at number 2 overall in the draft and taking a running back like Saquon Barkley when this is acknowledged again to be a pretty deep running back class, at least somewhat similar to last year's class. That seems a bit unnecessary. That seems to lack a fundamental understanding of how the draft board is laid out. If Saquon Barkley was the only true kind of can't miss or close to it type of running back, and even then he still has some serious questions and flaws to his game that have to be addressed and improved upon. But if he was so much better than everybody else at that position, that's one thing. And if you said the next closest running back is a late round 2, early round 3 grade, I get it. But this is not that type of draft. There is value at the running back position on day 2 and even day 3. For the Giants in their situation, to me it doesn't make a lot of sense, based off of the market conditions, based off of the way the draft is laid out currently, to take Barkley at number 2. Nor does it make a lot of sense to me to take Quenton Nelson number 2, even though I feel like it makes a little bit more sense than actually Saquon Barkley. But do you really want to draft an offensive guard number 2 overall? Especially, again, similar to running backs with Saquon, you look at Quenton Nelson, you've got other interior linemen that are really good prospects in this draft. Guys like Will Hernandez, guys like Isaiah Wynn, guys like James Daniels, guys like Billy Price, Austin Corbett if you go a little bit later down. You got guys that could be had later in round 1 at that position, day 2 in that position, probably day 3 at that position. The interior line class is pretty good here. So why sink a number 2 overall pick into that position if it's not really necessary? And again, the buzzword, the market conditions don't justify that. Like, to me, if Dave Gettleman stays at number 2 overall and he takes one of these 2 guys, I feel like it is a gross miscalculation on his part and a poor usage for his organization long term of a premium pick like the number 2 overall selection in a draft. For me, when I look at the Giants and that second overall pick, there are only 2 logical options here. Only 2 logical choices. And either one of them, based off of the perspective, can make a vast amount of sense for the organization. But has to be one of the 2 paths that this team ultimately goes down, and Dave Gettleman chooses to travel down. Number 1 is you keep the pick and you draft a quarterback. This is the most sensible long-term thing for the organization if you keep that second overall pick. A superstar running back is nice. A superstar all-pro, maybe borderline someday Hall of Fame offensive guard like Quenton Nelson is great. But if you can find that dude that can be that dude for the next 10, 12, 15 years at the most important position in football, then you are absolutely borderline insane if you do not do that. If you have a grade on a quarterback that necessitates and justifies being able to take him second overall and feeling really good about that for the long-term health and viability of your organization, then that is what you do, and that is the end of the discussion. Eli, for Christ's sakes, is 37 years old this year. He's the same age as me. He's already close to the end. How much more do you realistically think you're going to get out of him? And when you're looking at the Giants, how often do they really pick this high? You don't know when you will have the opportunity to have the second overall pick again to potentially get a franchise quarterback. You don't know when. It could be 3 years, it could be 5 years, or the next time you get into that position, the next 2 times you get into that position, there might not be a quarterback even worth a first-round grade. We've seen that happen. See 2013. You don't know what the future might hold. You don't know what the future quarterback classes might look like the next few years. You could try and ride out the string with Eli kind of foolishly for the next year or two, not really have a contingency plan. And then lo and behold, you're going into the future, unless you are cocksure about Davis Webb, you're probably in the market looking for another quarterback. And you might have passed on a superior prospect in 2018, looking ahead to 2020, 2021, something like that. Or if you're in this position again in 2019, you got to do the same thing. And you might potentially end up passing on even better players than Saquon, Barkley, or Quenton Nelson this year, next year, because you wanted to take one of those 2 guys this year. Hell, it might even motivate Eli in the short term, knowing that his clock is ticking, that he needs to play well in order to keep his job with the Giants, or if the Giants don't want him anymore, for somebody else to give him a run at the end of his career. The best thing for him might be to bring in some competition, to bring somebody that's a real threat that puts the pressure on Eli a little bit. And to me, ultimately, it seems kind of foolish to go in on a 37-year-old quarterback going off of a 3-13 season when you got the number 2 overall pick. You got to think about the future. And as a new general manager, you would think that you would want to ensure long-term job security. And yes, you could try and build up the team around Eli now, but wouldn't you rather see, if you've got that dude that you think can be that dude at the most important position, get him now? Because if anything, that will give you additional job security, because you're the guy that drafted this quarterback with this promise. It's not fair to you to sit there and be sabotaged and terminated because of Eli's performance at the tail end of his career. I mean, from a job security standpoint, from a personal protection standpoint, if you're going to keep the pick, then the only viable option is to keep it and draft a quarterback. If you've got a quarterback with a high enough grade, then you take him. You take him. But if you don't have a quarterback with a high enough grade, then you don't keep the number 2 overall pick. Right. If you're not going to take a quarterback number 2, then you trade the damn pick. I've been stunned to see Giants fans over the past couple of days after this Jets-Colts trade went down, how many of them are not only seemingly not okay with trading down, but also don't seem that stuck on drafting a quarterback when Eli's already 37 years of age. All this loyalty to a guy that's clearly at the tail end of his career. They want the team to draft Saquon Barkley, or some want them to draft Quenton Nelson. And look, I love those two guys as prospects, but this is crazy talk. You have a chance if you're the Giants. You want to help Eli, and you want to help Eli win now, and you also want to better ensure your future, then trade out of that second damn pick and trust your evaluations and get a bounty of draft pick currency both in this year and next year's draft and set yourself up really damn well. That's what a smart general manager, a smart organization would do, period. If you're not going to take a quarterback at number 2 because you do not have that level of grade on a quarterback number 2, that's understandable if you don't, then you trade out of the pick and that's it. Especially when market conditions indicate that the Jets gave up basically 3 second-round picks to move up only 3 spots from 6 to 3. Imagine what the Giants can get at the number 2 pick right now. If the Broncos are desperate to move up, if the Dolphins are desperate to move up, or if the Cardinals are desperate to move up, or most notably the Buffalo Bills with a ton of draft pick ammo are desperate to move up. Think about the price you can get in terms of draft pick currency and draft power in 2018 and 2019 by trading out of those picks, especially when you look at the 2 most realistic options outside of quarterback at number 2 for the Giants would be Saquon Barkley and Quenton Nelson. And these are 2 guys that are studs at a position that is loaded in this draft. Both running back and interior line classes are really damn good this year. You will be able to find guys that can contribute in those places that don't have to be taken number 2 overall. So if you can do that, why do it? It just doesn't make much sense. I go back to a few years ago when the Buffalo Bills had such a hard-on for Sammy Watkins that they traded up from 9 to 4 with the Browns. And in the meantime, they traded right up past drafting Mike Evans and Odell Beckham Jr., who are better players. Like you look at the Browns, they could have traded back from 4 to 9 and still ended up with OBJ. When you're talking about that 2014 wide receiver class, and as loaded as it was, and a class that produced guys like Allen Robinson in round 2 and guys all throughout that class, did it make any sense to stay put and have to take Sammy Watkins number 4 or trade up from 9 to 4 to get him? Absolutely freaking not. So why the hell would you do it here? Why would you be so stubborn about these 2 guys when their positions are so deep? And looking at the potential based off of what the Jets-Colts trade was, what the Giants have in the number 2 pick and its value, what these other teams would have to give up from their spots to move up. Look at a deal with Denver, let's say. They could get pick 5, pick 40, pick 71, and a 2019 first or second round pick. Why the hell wouldn't you do that? Especially because if you trade it down to number 5, you might lose out on either Barkley or Nelson, but one of them would be there. You could still get one of them and pick up a shit ton of draft pick currency and still help Eli and still help your positioning in this year and next year's draft. It's one of those ding-dong, dumb dick, just fucking do it type of things. And then let's not even get into Buffalo having to move up from 12 to 2. What the hell would that take? Probably picks 12, 22. So the Giants could go from 2 to having 2 first-round picks. Instead of just 1 at number 2, they could have picks 12 and 22. They could get 53 in round 2. They could get 65 in round 3. And again, I'm not being unrealistic here. This is based off the old draft pick value chart and maybe a 2019 first or second round pick. Like, you look at this, and why the hell, if you're the Giants, wouldn't you do that? You get all these additional picks. You could still address running back. Again, a really good class. You could address interior offensive line. Again, a really good class. You could still get a really quality player with the 12th overall pick. Or if you say that's a little too far back and you want to go up just a little bit to get somebody, then you have plenty of draft pick ammo to be able to do that and not blink an eye. Like, to me, it's asinine to sit there and think the Giants should stay put at number 2 and take Saquon or Quenton Nelson. Those are great players, yes. But if your front office is worth a shit, then the smarter thing to do is trade down, get all of these picks, because if your evaluations are good, you will get more impact players for now and for the future. And based off of what could happen in 2019's draft, you might have more draft pick ammo to be able to make a big move up and get that quarterback of the future. And think about how much sense that freaking makes. So to me, for Dave Gettleman and the Giants, it's very simple. You either stay at number 2 and take the quarterback if you have a quarterback that's worth that grade. If you do not, then you deal out of that damn pick and you get as much draft pick currency as possible and you trust your evaluations. Staying there at number 2 to take the top guys in position groups that are deep and loaded this year is absolutely foolish.